Okay, so this end, this is what's gonna get soldered to the CMOS. So on this end of the cable, you want to not expose as much of the wire as before, because it's not necessary. The CMOS is much, the soldering is much closer than for the connector end there. So maybe I take off about 5 millimeters, maybe a little bit less than that. And then it's similar to the other case. You want to give yourself enough central conductor so that later you will be able to solder it to the underside of the CMOS. So about 2.5–3 millimeters, and you don't need a lot of the braiding exposed there, just a bit. When you hold it like this, the central conductor can be pulled out from it a little bit, so you have a little bit of play. And it's good to keep the braiding there very tidy, because you don't want it to be too big to not interfere with other things on the PCB of the CMOS. Okay, I'm gonna remove the insulation on the central conductor like I did before. So just a little bit, like a millimeter. Okay, central conductor is not shorted with the braid.
Okay.
For the CMOS, I ground myself, which is attached to the table, and I can take the CMOS out of its static protection box. It's secure and safe that way. The place on the CMOS where the cable gets soldered is on these two vias. There are two holes. The bottom one is for the braiding, and the top one is for the central conductor in the coax cable. So the first step is to tin the CMOS. So I put flux on these two vias. They're gold plated, so it's easy to solder. So just making sure that flux gets over the surface to be soldered very well. Very gently just poke it to just put a little bit of solder, not too much. And then you can clean your iron. And I applied soldered just on a little bit of the via, and then I can just melt it and whisk it around the via like this. So what you want to ensure is that you don't block it with solder, so there's still a hole through. The other one you can just plug with the solder. Now we take the end of our cable to be soldered to the CMOS, and you thread the central conductor in the bottom hole, the ground hole, through, such that the braid comes to contact with the rim of the hole. And there's still flux, and both surfaces are tinned. Then all I need to do is to apply heat to melt the solder, and they will fuse and make a solid joint. You can flip the CMOS over to look at the underside. You can pull the wire gently and then bend it so that you place it over the other pad. And there's still flux all around, so that you can touch it with the hot iron and because they're thin, they will fuse together. This is the signal via there, the pin, and then the braiding, the ground to the Miniscope. And here, if I touch the other pin, the multimeter will chip, but that's normal because it's all connected in the PCB. But if it peeped with a full sound as if there was a short, then it would be very bad. But you would expect there that if you were to touch those two, they would show you high resistance, but still they will peep a little bit like this. But this one is shorted. Okay, same thing with the central pin of the connector. If I touch this and I touch the ground, it's gonna peep, but it's gonna be continuous on the other channel. So that's what you want. So if you touch the braiding on the connector or the casing and you touch the ground, it should beep for long. But just peep when you touch the signal. And then if you touch the pin on the connector and you touch the ground, it should just peep. Or not necessarily. Okay, the reason why it might stop peeping is because there are capacitors. And so when the multimeter tests for continuity, it passes current. If you charge the capacitors to capacity, then current cannot pass anymore. That's why it stops beeping. But that's normal. So the braiding and the casing should always be continuous. That should be continuous with the braiding on the cable and on the ground. And should just make the signal peep like this. And likewise, the middle pin on the connector should make the ground peep or do nothing. So in the case it's doing nothing, that's very good, but should make the signal beep. So now if I screw on the coax connector onto the DAC board, the Miniscope link LED lights up and the power light on the CMOS lights up. So this is correct. If this light doesn't light up, it means that there's a failure and it will absolutely never work. UCLA Miniscope controller software and see if we can connect to the CMOS. If a window appears and it's all white, it means that it's connected. It's all white because the CMOS right now is exposed to light, but see that if I block the light to the CMOS, then you can see that a shadow appears in the video, so that your image is good.